Welcome once again, everybody, to Irish Sports Daily Power Hour. I'm your host, Mike Frank, here with my good buddy, Jamie Uyeyama, fresh from a big trip to South Bend for Irish Invasion. We have Greg Flamong also producing the show. We got lots to talk about today. It's mostly going to be recruiting, of course, because that's what we're doing right now. That's everything that's going on right now. So before we get going, I want to mention it's a great time to sign up for Irish Sports Daily with visits starting this week, and then we got another big weekend coming after that. Lots going to happen here as far as recruiting goes, and there's a lot of big names left on the board, and hopefully Notre Dame can close strong, and we'll be able to discuss that. Also wanted to mention our sponsor, which is ESQ Clothing, founded by ND alum Ge Wang. You've seen ESQ on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches. From All-Americans to All-Pros and associates to CEOs, you're in great hands with ESQ's custom clothing. Whether you're looking for the perfect fitting suit, a standout sport coat, or a perfect tuxedo for weddings, galas, ESQ Master Tailor blend traditional hand stitching in each garment with Italy and England's best fabrics. Check out Ge's amazing work at esqclothing.com and book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention ISD, get 10% off your entire purchase. Once again, that's esqclothing.com. And again, wanted to mention also, it is a great time to sign up for Irish Sports Daily. Just go to the premium section and you can click on sign up today. There's got to be a lot happening here in the next, hopefully next 3 weeks. Usually the month of June, everybody tries to get in before the 4th of July, make their commitments. Some do linger into July, but I'd expect most of Notre Dame's class to be done, certainly by mid-July. There'll probably maybe be a spot or two, and I'm sure that the flipping season will happen, and everybody will have to worry about that. But certainly a lot of great stuff going on. Also wanted to mention we got a lot of people in the chat today. Thanks for everybody who comes in and watches the show live on YouTube. We greatly appreciate that. And if you haven't, please subscribe and like the channel. Also, I'm going to mention during chat or before when we get to questions, hopefully you guys in chat have some questions too, and we'll have Greg pop those up and we'll answer your questions as well, because you guys come in here every week and you deserve to have your questions answered as well. So Yama, went to Irish Invasion. Unfortunately, we didn't get a very good look, and I wasted a lot of money sending you there. Hey, it's just what happened. I wasted a lot of money for sending you there, but you got to see Todd, you got to see Matt, you got to hang out, have a little bit of fun, and you did get to see some guys. I mean, I'm not going to say it's anything other than what it is. It's a disappointment for us in the media. We just didn't get a good look like we normally do. I don't know why. I don't know what happened, why that happened. But it's frustrating, especially because there was a lot of good players there. There were a lot of good talent there. The talent was fine. I mean, there was a lot of great players there. We just didn't get to see them compete, and that's very strange. That has never happened. But anything you want to add about Invasion?
Yeah, it never happened at any camp. Not just at Notre Dame, but any camp I've ever been to. I don't remember them ever doing that before, but hopefully it's something that they kind of learned, because I'm sure that it wasn't just us saying that it was bad.
Well, it's a complete waste of our time. I mean, if you don't want us there, just don't ask us to come. Just don't ask us to come.
Just don't make it open. Yeah, don't make it open.
Yeah, I mean, it complete waste of our time. But go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, you did get to see, obviously, some guys who are going to be pretty big recruits for targets for Notre Dame for 2028 and 2029. And one of the things too is 3 linebackers got offered, during the camp, 2 28s and 1 2029. I like all 3 of those kids are very good. Reagan Smith, who's 2028, I think was outstanding in the little bit that I got to see him there. Cale Bridge, another guy who's a really, really good athlete. Austin Phillips is a 2029 kid who's just started kind of blowing up, and Notre Dame's getting there early. He's an in-state kid, so that's somebody to kind of watch kind of going forward. Some really, really good DBs there. I mean, CJ Craig James, I think you just watch him, looking at him. I think that's another thing too, just Notre Dame being able to get a guy from there who's from Alabama to come and visit to get a running back, Aisley Brown, who looked just like a different level compared to every other back there. And there were some other pretty decent backs there too. Who's another kid from Mississippi. You don't get a lot of Mississippi kids coming in for invasion and camps like that too. So, credit to Notre Dame. They really did bring in a good list, and they obviously had some, a couple of 2029 quarterbacks that already have offers that were really good there. And the tight ends too. I would say like Grant Bowen, man, he's going to be an absolute stud. He looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's a guy, obviously he's a Iowa legacy. His father, Matt Bowen, who, coaches him at IC Catholic in Illinois. He's went to Iowa, played in the NFL too. But Iowa does a pretty good job with tight ends too. But he's someone who could probably play multiple positions. Interesting to kind of see where he settles. But I do think he has a chance to be a dynamic tight end. And, Notre Dame does a pretty good job with the tight end position too. So I think he's a guy that I imagine is going to be top of the board for them going forward. So, there was some good stuff there. Also, one of these things too, where you just get to see just a little bit of some of the other guys who are there, like, because there's freshman guys helping out. So got a chance to see Sullivan Garvin kind of helping out with the offensive line group. Man, he looks really like slimmed down in a good way. He's still huge. He's just a monstrous kid. You see the way that he works just coaching in the kid. Like he was drenched in sweat, Mike. I think he's just going to be an absolute stud. I think he's going to be an absolute stud for Notre Dame. And I'm even more excited about his future than I already was. I was already super high on him. Seeing Ethan Long was out there helping out with the DBs. He looks really good, and I did a really good job. I think, helping Javon Codlin and Aaron Henry coach those kids up too. That was always nice to see. And, I should have to mention James Halter too, who, looked really, really good, had incredible testing numbers, ran a 4.9840.
That's
not
crazy.
something you see from like
that shuttle at 4.56 shuttle. And that's what I've been saying. That his lateral quickness. That's why I think he can play tackle. I really do. I mean, that's an outstanding shuttle. Like if you go look at the NFL combine, nobody did that. You know what I mean? And now he's 270, he's not 320. So, when you add 50 pounds, obviously something's going to give a little bit, but just the athleticism. And I guarantee you the guys that ran whatever they ran at the NFL combine in shuttle, they didn't run that at 17, you know what I mean? So he's going to get, once his body gets together. And people are sleeping on him, and I think Richie Flanagan too. I think they're sleeping on him too. I think he's going to be a really, really good player. And sorry to interrupt, but I just think that shuttle was really impressive, and even the broad jump, broad jump. I mean,
9.6 broad jump, or 9.8. Yeah, 9.8 is like that's good for a DB at that camp. So you get a 270-pound offensive lineman doing that. It's an incredible number, right? So that's just something that you just don't see a lot from too many kids. And you can see that he's got that kind of lower body explosion. I think, and obviously, his dad is a former Notre Dame offensive lineman too. He's going to add weight and he's going to be big. There's a lot of like Anthony Knapp in him, I think, in a lot of ways, in that same kind of nastiness.
I think he's a little more athletic, Anthony Knapp.
And even a little more athletic, And
but it has that nastiness.
So
exactly. Yeah, he played left tackle for Notre Dame and did a good job most of the time,
And I'll say too, whenever you see a kid who's committed, there's nothing there for him. He doesn't even have to test. He doesn't have to do any of that stuff, right? There's recruits there. And I understand some of these guys already have offers. They're traveling around. Maybe they're, they don't have to do anything. They already have an offer. They don't have to earn an offer. But you like to see guys who want to compete and get coached. He's already committed. He's got his offer. He's in the class. He doesn't have to do any testing. He's got nothing to prove. He's out there just competing and going out there to work with Coach Rudolph and learn and get a chance to work with him. And I love to see that. I think that's always a great sign.
You don't think Joe Rudolph loves that? Heck yeah,
Oh
he
yeah,
does.
hell yeah, he loves that. Yeah.
He wants
Oh
every kid to do that because it shows that, hey, I'm I'm a baller, man. I'm here to compete, and I'm here to learn. And you know, uh, Jordan told me James is coming back in 2 weeks for an official visit. So, I'm sure Jordan doesn't want to come out 2 weeks in a row, but that's just that's what you do when you're a baller. When you want to become a great player, that's what you do. And so, and I know that we need to update our list, but it sounds like all five or all four of the offensive offensive line commits are going to be there. We confirmed Olu will be there, and they're trying to get obviously everybody up there for Albert Simeon when he comes up on the 19th, and I think that's a good smart move, and I'm glad that it sounds like Notre Dame was able to do that because I think that room, the O-line room, probably more than any other room is probably the tightest, and that's just the way that it is. It's not, I just think that that's just the way offensive linemen are. That's just a very tight room where they do literally everything together, and it's not, a cluster of guys here and a cluster of guys here. It's the whole group does everything together, and that's just the way that's always kind of been. And so, but yeah, I'm very excited about that, and I think, boy, if you could land Albert Simeon, that would certainly be an outstanding addition to this class, and go from there. Did get some bad news, I guess. Amari Irvin. You and I are. I mean, I like this kid. I think he's a really, really talented player. It sounds like he's not going to be in the class. He went and took another visit to Virginia Tech. I do think he's a guy that would have taken 2-3 years before he played, for sure. It just doesn't have the body. Would have taken a long time to get, physical, but his ability to do things, was unique. And I almost saw him, if they had him in kind of the role that I think that they look at Luke Tolich, as maybe that type of role until he could get to the type of body he is. But to make no mistake, this kid's a playmaker. He's a good football player. It is a loss, especially because you have no linebackers. And I know people are going to look and say, what's going on in linebacker recruiting and Coach BJ. Look, you had Max left, right? Then you had Al Washington calling all these kids saying, I'm going to be your new linebackers coach. And, you got to overcome the loss of Max. And then all of a sudden Al Washington leaves, and now you got a third linebackers coach. That's just a really difficult sell for any linebackers coach. I don't care who it is. It's just a very difficult sell because you're coming in and everybody's already got these long-term relationships built, and he doesn't have it with anybody. And by the time he got to Notre Dame, a lot of the guys that he offered at Michigan were not the same people that were on Notre Dame's board. And there may be a couple, but that's just very, very rare. And so you're basically starting from scratch. So in Coach BJ's defense, that's a tough sell for any linebackers coach. But you're still in a bad situation. It's Caden Henderson or nobody at this point. And I guess that gives you just
Igwe as well.
Yeah, and he's still in it. A lot of people think that maybe Notre Dame's not as high on his list as others think. But I don't know the actual thing there. And of course they're recruiting him, and he's gonna come, make this visit. You still, I think is his this weekend though? Yeah, I think it is this weekend, isn't it? Let me look real quick.
Yeah, he's this weekend.
No, it's
so
yeah, it is. Yes, it is.
He's this weekend. And obviously too, it's a big weekend for Chicago kids. You got Fuller-Runchu, who's obviously Fuller-Runchu, who's always committed already. He's a Chicago kid, and Parks too, right? So, those are important guys, right? Like those are really important guys. So, Cisse, he's not a Chicago kid, but that's obviously a very important guy too. So, there's a
we have McAfee. Yeah, we got Miles McAfee coming in, the wide receiver. We've got Abraham Cisse. We've got commit Jackson Vaughn. We've got D lineman Tyler Alexander. And I'll get your thoughts on him in a minute. We got Fuller-Runchu, Braden Parks, Roman Igwebuike, and then Greedy James, who's a Texas commit. And it sounds like Notre Dame. I don't know if they're high on his list, but that's going to be a tough flip to get him to flip from Texas. So those are kind of the guys that we know coming in. Greg, you popped in here. Is there something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight a question from Jacob Paulus here, asking about the linebacker board. He asked if you guys expect Notre Dame to expand the board if they strike out on basically Henderson, Igwebuike. Are they fine to take 0 linebackers? Just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Oh, there's no doubt they'd expand the board. I mean,
they're not taking 0.
I mean, look at next year. When you look at the situation next year, it's an interesting thing because Jalen Sneed will be gone, Bowen will be gone. KVA has the opportunity to potentially, graduate or not. Actually, probably could graduate, but maybe go to the NFL. I did hear good news over this weekend that he's advanced as far as I think he's going to be able to play sooner than people think. I don't know that for a fact, but just based off of things that I've heard, it sounds like he may be able to play sooner. A lot of people thought, well, maybe mid-year, but I think it may be even sooner than that. So if KVA has the year that a lot of people think he did, he could be gone. So then you just have, Madden, Teddy Rizak, Koakia, Kahanukia, Clapper, Davis, and maybe Osbury. But look, if I'm Osbury, if I'm not guaranteed a spot to start, I'm not sure I'm sticking around, right? I'm not sure I am because he can go start somewhere else. Same thing we've seen with offensive linemen at Notre Dame and other places. So, it is a bigger need than people think. It really is. And I think that Notre Dame's high on a lot of those guys, but, they're going to have some holes to fill for sure. And so I think it's important that they add at least 1 or 2. And if I'm Caden Henderson, I got to look at that and say, well, there's a pretty good opportunity for me to play early. So I don't know. Thoughts here on the linebacker situation?
Yeah, and I also think too that what we've seen with like this past year where they finally took guys that are undergrads that have like multiple years of eligibility left, like specifically at receiver, you look at Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham. Those guys, there's no way they would have even taken those guys in previous years, just based on them not being grad transfers and being so far away from graduating. So it's different now. So I do think that where if they do strike out in recruiting this year because of the situation, where everything started, they could end up getting a kid who's, 1 year at somewhere else and then coming into Notre Dame. Right. So
yeah,
they could do that through the portal too. Where you're not just taking a kid to be like, hey, you're bringing a guy in to start right away. You're bringing in a guy to say like, hey, you're going to come in here, you're going to compete, but we're going to develop you too. Right. So I think there's always that as well that I would say. But I think that right now it just, obviously it makes it more of a priority to land that the guys that they're bringing in, like obviously specifically Henderson. But I think also we've seen this before too, where Notre Dame, when they get in these situations where they say like, hey, they go full court and they say, we're going to go all in and we're going to do stuff that these other teams can't match, like whether money and everything and all that. Right. So I do think that's something, I imagine they're going to do everything they can to make it hard for Caden Henderson to say no. And the thing is too, is that if you land, I think Amar Irvin is a really, really good football player, and it's a shame that he's not going to be in the class. But if they land Caden Henderson, I don't even care if they get a second guy. People will just be happy because he's level of the guy. Yeah,
sure. Yeah. Well, that's one spot that you've got a dude. You know what I mean? Yeah. You just know you do. It's kind of like KVA coming in and Madden, you had a pretty good inclination that, hey, these guys, they were going to play. They were just going to be guys that are just going to play. And so I think I would put him in the KVA mold more so than the Madden mold, where I think his upside is KVA, first round pick. Madden, I think, could be there. We'll see what happens. I think he could be that kind of guy. But I think coming in, I see him as a KVA. I really do. That a guy can come in and just probably play.
He's going to play early. Yeah.
So, all right. And I mean, Madden did too. So it's not like you won't, he's somebody that you're disappointed with. He certainly played right away. So, let me get to Tyler Alexander. I'm sure you've covered it a little bit on Hit and Hustle, but for Power Hour, what do you think about this guy? Obviously Braden Parks is somebody they've been recruiting for a long time. They're kind of similar, body types and everything. I would say, me personally, I think Parks has a little bit more lateral quickness. I think he can be a little bit more of a disruptor as a pass rusher. But I do like Alexander. I think he's a good player. But you're the expert here on this. What do you think of him?
I like him. I think he's got a really, really high ceiling. I think has more development to do than Parks. So that's kind of like one of the things, just like overall with like his technical development. Also, I look at him and I think this is a guy who's probably going to take off once he gets into a college strength and conditioning program, and just gets right in that way. Because if you look at some of like his testing numbers are like not that great, like, and whatever, but it doesn't really reflect how he looks on film and how like his explosiveness on film. And one thing is he plays really hard. He plays really, really hard. I think he's a guy who plays with fire. He's got an 80-inch wingspan, 33-inch arm, like pretty good, length. And I just think that he's somebody that isn't going to be, and you don't have to be a defensive tackle. No one is coming in and playing right away. Maybe Fularunchu, I think, is a pretty good shot at playing right away. But there's not too many guys who have a shot to come in and play right away. So he's a little bit more developmental than Parks, because I think Parks is more advanced. Not just like he's a better pass rusher, but also too like his hands are better, and in that way too. There's just there's more clay to that he has to like form there to get to where he's at. But I think he's a pretty good prospect, and if they ended up with him, that's a pretty good interior prospect. He's got a chance to be a pretty good player in college.
You got to be kidding me. I just read CFB Hertz says Sorsby wins a temporary injunction against the NCAA currently eligible. You got to be kidding me. I mean, seriously, what the hell? That is unbelievable. Just the corruption that it has happened. I can't even, nothing makes sense anymore. I mean, nothing makes sense anymore. What the hell is going on in this world? I just don't even understand it.
The law's not the law, I guess.
It's unbelievable. It is truly unbelievable. It's not the NCAA.
The NCAA actually,
it's a freaking judge.
It's the judge. It's the judge.
He wanted to feel connected to his teammates, guys.
He
wasn't playing. He wanted to feel connected to his teammates, and he placed bets on them.
The judge is apparently a Texas Tech booster.
I mean, it's in Lubbock. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. This is absolutely disgusting. It is disgusting. My God, I cannot believe this.
Yeah.
There are no morals in this world anymore. There are none. There are no morals in this world anymore. It's just ridiculous. There are literally no morals these people are supposed to be unbiased people. I cannot believe this. God. All right, I'm sorry. This kind of stuff just drives me crazy. Moving on.
Insane.
Moving on. Notre Dame did add some big time talent this weekend. Ian Premer, Teddy Gerard, Ben Nichols, Greg Patrick, a couple of the specialists are now also there. Man, did you see Ian Premer's photo?
Yeah,
dude. I mean, I knew he's big, but he looks like he's 270. I mean, really thick kid. He looked as big as Patrick coming in. I mean, just I don't know. It's one of these things where you're like, well, the jump, is it too much, that type of thing? But I think body wise, wow, he's going to be a big dude. I mean, I knew he'd probably be about 260, but he may be 260 by the end of this year. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I mean that was exciting, and I like seeing. It's hard to see because the guy's just walking, but Ben Nichols didn't look fat. He didn't look like there wasn't a big gut sticking out, and And so I thought that was impressive to see because, that is one thing that the guy needed to do is redistribute some weight. He's a big hoss, man. But if he could get a little bit more athletic, wow, that guy could be a heck of a player because he is mean and he is big and he is strong and he can push people. He just, it's going to come down to how athletic he can be. Because if he can be athletic and learn to pass block, man, he could be a really big time mauler for Notre Dame. So, real quick thoughts on them. That's Bremer there.
That's Bremer right there. Yeah, he's when you're walking in on check-in day and you look like this, it's a good sign. It's a good sign.
He looks like Flanagan. He looks like Flanagan right now. Cooper Flanagan. Yeah. I mean, that's when Cooper Flanagan walks in, he looks pretty much like that. Maybe a little bit more cut, but not much. Go ahead.
And honestly too, when you see I think what it actually reminds me of is Cole Kmet. But not Cole Kmet when he first arrived, because when Cole Kmet first arrived, you were like, oh, Kmet. I mean, he was good size, but then the next year you were like, oh man, Cole Kmet is just like at a different level. When he went into his sophomore year, you're like, man, this guy's just a beast now. And he looks like Cole Kmet a year in. That's saying something. I think he's going to be just, he is very much in the realm of might be just too good to not play early. You got to learn the offense, and there's a lot of different things. Mike Denbrock, he really pushes those tight ends because there's a lot of stuff with motion and things you got to do where they use them as blockers, and you got to do a lot of different stuff. And people forget that Michael Mayer played right away, and he came in the summer too, but he was so football smart and just so advanced in a lot of those ways that he was able to kind of, overcome some of these hurdles right away that a lot of people go through. At the same time, Ian Bremer might be just somebody that you said, we got to have a package for this guy, and we just got to get something, because especially when they don't really have someone who at least has established themselves yet as this guy is going to be like an absolute weapon as a receiver. Yeah. So, because I guarantee there's not going to be a lot of guys who can cover him once figures it all out. He's going to be an absolute stud.
Yeah, Hunter Bivin and Mike Denbrock, they got a job to do, because if they can get him coached up by game 3 or 4 and get him some reps, that could really add something to the offense. So let's hope that happens. So again, we talked about Parks and everything, and what do you think of Igwebuike? I mean, how do you think he would fit? Do you see him as a Mike? Do you see that is where he would play?
I do. I mean, I think he's a guy who could play Mike or Will. But he's got a lot of that same thing as Ferrermo, where he's bigger too, right? He's legit 6'3". He's got a 79-inch wingspan, and he can rush off the edge too. So he's got a little bit of that too. And he's going to be he's already 222 pounds. There's a lot of these linebackers right now that going into their senior year, most of these kids are 210. A lot of the guys aren't. They're going to put that weight on later, by the time they get to school. So he's already 222 pounds. He's not going to be someone who has to, gain a ton of weight. He's probably going to be, about 235 pretty easy, very early in his career. And
I would agree. Yeah.
And he's an explosive athlete, right? He's an explosive athlete. I think he probably has to, do some stuff to every linebacker. It's a transition to going to college, and all the mental side of it is the biggest part. But I really do think that he's got a chance to be a 3-down linebacker, and he's got really, really high potential. So I'd like him as a prospect. I think, I think right now he's more see ball, get ball, and he's got to be a little bit, learn the position more and be better off the ball. But certainly, a lot of traits there to be develop into a stud.
Notre Dame looks at Greedy James as a defensive back. Again, this is going to be or not as a defensive back, but as a corner. A lot of people think he's a safety. Some people think he's a corner. Notre Dame likes him as a corner. Do you like him? Do you think he's got that kind of ability to play the corner position?
I mean, he's a big time athlete, like that's for sure. Like he's got incredible, like he had a 404 short shuttle, which is just insane. And he is somebody who, has really good like sprinting times. He has all the athleticism to play corner. So that's not a thing, but you just don't see a lot of him. You see more of him playing safety. I would say I think he's a better athlete than his film. I think that when you see, all of his testing and all of that, that pops more than when you see him on film, just like jumping out as an athlete and as he's a playmaker as a football player, but he's like a raw athlete to me. So he's a guy who really is going to need to develop, but I think he's got, another guy too, who's like really high upside, just like the kid that they just offered, Evan Villa, who, if you look at him, you say, well, he's a guy that has, because he's playing multiple positions and he's starring and making a ton of plays and all that, but he's not like as polished as a corner, but he's just an elite electric athlete. And I would say Villa too is probably even more an electric athlete than James. But certainly I could see why that Notre Dame would be after a guy like that. And those kind of guys too are absolutely, when you've already got guys in place, when you think about like Ace Alston and you think about Hassan, those guys are already way more polished than a lot of kids coming in. And you could see those guys, just their intelligence, like playing zone and their instincts and all of that. And yeah, I would, if you're going to add an extra corner, you want that guy to be an elite athlete and say like, hey, this is going to be a developmental kid, but like, man, if he hits, it's going to be big.
Are you thinking that they're thinking more nickel for these guys?
Well, I'm not sure too, because it's going to be interesting because like with Ge, he's someone who played a lot of nickel, for his program, and is good there. But he's like a bigger nickel, obviously, and he's going to play safety too. So, but I could easily see, especially too with like the kind of like change of direction stuff. Both those guys I could see easily.
That's what I was thinking.
And train them.
Yeah. Plus, they played a lot of kind of safety type of role too. So that's why I was kind of wondering as well. And I mean, I think a lot of people are like, well, why would Notre Dame kind of struggle? Again, you lose a really great, recruiter and somebody who has brought in a lot of and had a lot of juice, and you lose them. And I think that they've filled that role with some quality coaches, especially keeping Codlin certainly helped too. But at the same time, Notre Dame's just loaded at corner. So I think it takes a guy like Hassan to say, you know what, I'm good enough to go compete with those guys, right? You're not going to get a lot of low 4-star guys come in and see the talent that's stacked in front of them and go, oh yeah, I can beat those guys out. You know what I mean? So I think that it takes a guy that's a big time talent and somebody who has proven that they can do this type of stuff to take on that challenge. And so you're not going to have a lot of guys that are going to be lining up saying, oh yeah, I want to go compete with all those great corners that Notre Dame already has on the roster. There's just not many guys that are going to do that. So, and trust me, I'm sure the competition has pointed that out over and over and over and over again. All right. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, Jamie, with some of these injuries, guys coming back from Notre Dame, players that a little bit banged up and we'll see, how we'll start to hear a little bit more, now that they get to run around and that type of thing. I know a lot of people will be asking about Charles Juggesaw. I don't think there's anything you can really add to that, but just some guys that have just been kind of banged up a little bit. How does Drake Bowen look running and, all these types of things. So I'd expect in the next probably 3 weeks, stuff will start trickling out about that. And we'll get a better understanding of, who may really be ready to go and compete and that type of thing. So we'll see what happens. All right. if you would, folks, in the chat, if you have some questions now, start posting them in there, and then Greg will grab them, and we're going to just start answering questions from the ISD customers as well, and we'll just kind of pick them off that way. All right, first question: with Texas possibly backing out of 2029 game, 2028, do you think teams are going to start canceling more and more on Notre Dame? Or is the money involved with playing Notre Dame too valuable and the program not worried about the scheduling? I mean, I think it's going to be a problem. I just do. I think a lot of people look at the situation like what happened with Texas last year, and you listen to Sark crying constantly about it. That's all he does is cry about it. It's like, dude, you lost to Florida, right? If you don't lose to Florida, you don't have this problem. So, it's the same situation with Notre Dame. If Notre Dame doesn't lose one of those two games, they're in it too, right? So you got to control what you can control. But I do think a lot of teams are going to start looking at this going, yeah, I don't know. So, that Alabama one down the road, does that still stick, especially if Texas does? And I think the big thing is the stigma behind it more than anything. I bet if you asked a lot of coaches, they'd say, yeah, let's get out of this, but they don't want to look like they're chicken by getting out of it at the same time. So I do think it's going to be a problem. What do you think?
Well, I think, it is, because the other thing is it's not happening. It's happening frequently enough everywhere that no one will just say, well, look at Texas, and everyone puts the shame on Texas. It's like, nah, everyone. When Indiana's backing out of playing Virginia, like, people just accept it. Like, they don't care, right? Like, they get shamed for a week, and then the next team opts out of a game, right? So, I do think you're going to see more of it, but again, it's one of these things where that's why Notre Dame, the Big 12, be smart and use all of your, it should be that opportunity. If you want to get the Big 12 to get respect, they just get, the whole SEC media days was just ripping on the Big 12 and the fact that, how are, they ranked here, and why didn't we get more teams and this and that, and start taking shots at Texas Tech and all of that. Well, Texas Tech, the smartest thing they could do is, if Texas backs out, they schedule Notre Dame. That's what they should do. And frankly, too, is not that anyone wants to go to Lubbock or anything. No one wants to travel to Lubbock. But if you were just talking about pure talent on the teams of who you'd want to play, I'd way rather play Texas Tech than Texas. Texas has more dudes. They just do, right? And they're always going to be way better up front than Texas Tech, no matter what, because Texas Tech has to get their guys through the portal, and they have to hit enough guys for it to work. It's not going to be the same as it is at Texas every year. So I think that, Texas Tech, BYU, Utah, whoever, right? All those teams should be looking to partner up with Notre Dame as much as possible to get those games. And does it replace Texas and Alabama as big names? No, it doesn't. But at the same time, you look at how USC backed out, BYU is a better team than USC this year. So that is actually helps Notre Dame. And if BYU became an annual rivalry, I think that's a good thing for Notre Dame, right? That's one of those things that
I
you
would like
at.
it. I think their fans are good people, and I think that they do a really good job. Everybody who's ever gone on that trip says it's just wonderful. Just the atmosphere is just wonderful. So, So as far as I saw the question Greg put up there, 2028 guy you want, Jamie?
I'd probably say Grant Bowen would be the guy for me, just out of that camp. He stands out as a guy, and I just loved his film. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. I know tight end, they'll be fine if they don't get him. But I do think he's got a chance to be one of these guys who's a dynamic tight end. So he's someone who immediately comes to mind. I'll also just add in, just for pick a guy on defense too. Asa Birch, who was also at the camp, who's an edge rusher. He looks really good. He's a stud. Obviously, it's going to be hard to I believe he's a Michigan legacy. He's also from Ohio, so Ohio State's going to push too, but he's got a chance to be an elite prospect.
For me, it starts at quarterback. Always does. And I like Kingston Prier. I think that guy's going to be a really talented player. I think he's got a ways to go. He's going to need some polish, but I think his upside is, maybe not quite Deuce Knight, but I think it's very, very close. I think he's just a really talented player. And Notre Dame needs to continue to stack elite quarterbacks. And because if you stack elite quarterbacks, you can fix everything. If you keep getting good quarterbacks, you're going to get good receivers. You're going to get good tight ends. And if you get good quarterbacks, you're going to win a lot of games, and that's going to draw everybody else in. So to me, it always starts there for me. Notre Dame is starting to get some guys like that, and I'm very excited about it. So, interesting. Will the team be doing football school during the summer? I mean, I'm sure they do. The coaches do work with them. They do get some opportunity to kind of sit there and work with them. But it's it's not. It's school. It's not. Let's line up and get 11 on 11, and we're practicing that type of thing. So they will do. The coaches will be involved. There'll be those types of meetings and those types of situations. But it a lot of times though in the summer. It is up to the players to get it together. And I'll say this. I think Notre Dame has the best leader at quarterback that they've had in a very long time. And I think that goes a long, long way. And I think defensively, they got some great leadership there too. And this is, I was going to ask you this, Jamie, to see if you felt the same way. But I think going into this season, this is the most excited I've been about Notre Dame's leadership going into the season for quite some time. Most years we're kind of saying, well, who's going to be the leader here? It seems more defined this year. It really does. We know Adon's going to be a guy. We know Bowen's going to be a guy, right? We know Leonard Moore's going to be a guy. We know CJ Carr will be a guy. We know Knapp is definitely going to be a guy, and he'll have Craig there to help him. And Cooper Flanagan's highly, highly respected amongst those guys, and he's the first one to fight. So literally the first guy to start fighting. And I love that about him. And he has the respect of everybody. So to me, I just, I feel good about it. I really do. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, it's because of how many guys are just coming back in general. Multiple captains, Bowen and obviously Schuler too, where those guys have a chance to be two-time captains. Used to be like a pretty rare thing to be a two-time captain. Those guys are probably going to be two-time captains. And, you can have two on the same team. Yeah, they're in great shape in terms of just leadership and where they're at. And just, I think too, that's one of those things when, football school is obviously involved with the coaches and all that kind of stuff too. But when you have that kind of leadership and when you have guys who just make sure that people are like on point, because there's so many of these guys that they're like, we're winning a national championship. And when you have so many of those guys that it's not just like they've been in that and they felt that for like 3 years basically, or 2 years really, with 2024 and 2025 and this being the third year, like that is something that Notre Dame hasn't had a lot of, not recently, right? So it's just a lot of like people who are going to help pull up these younger guys and help develop them along, because they know like, hey, not just for the future, but these guys can help us win this year.
All right, question up here. Should we be concerned about where things stand with Prier, given the recent offer to Tagliaferri? Again, I don't know. I think Notre Dame was hoping to have something done by the start of June. And when that didn't happen, I think Notre Dame said, look, especially because we think Neiman Lawrence is going to come off the board and it's probably not going to be Notre Dame. A lot of people think it's going to be Texas. And so I think Notre Dame needs to make sure that they're doing. I don't know if you read too much into that, but you also got to understand these kids, they got a lot of agents in their ears. They got family members. They got a lot of people that are in their ears and telling them, hey, be patient. Let's not rush to things. And let's be honest, with the NIL, if I'm a father and I'm an agent and I have a quarterback that a lot of people want, I want to make sure I explore all my options and all my opportunities. And so I think that it's going to be hard to get somebody locked down right away, but I know Notre Dame would love to have it done by now. So I know they're trying to get that done, but we'll see what happens. I think we just need to be a little bit patient. And I think if we get past a situation like if we're past July and into August, then maybe it is a little bit of concern. But all these quarterbacks are going to start getting pressure on them. With Lawrence deciding fairly soon, that's going to put pressure on a lot of other guys, and so that's usually the way it goes.
Domino effect, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yes. Okay. Why did Indy move on from Sean Fox and seemingly not push for Igwebuike? They did. They're pushing for Igwebuike. They definitely are pushing for him. They're bringing him up. They want him to come visit. I think they certainly like him. It's just, where do they stand in the situation? I don't think they know exactly where they stand in it. You have to also understand Notre Dame was late in this, right? They were late. They didn't offer right away. And because of that, you're going to have every other coach that's recruiting him saying, well, they didn't believe in you, so why are you going to go there? And that's what continues to happen. So to me, I'm, as far as Fox goes, I think there were a lot of things that were involved there. And I think one of the main things is the fact that I just don't feel like Notre Dame felt that they had a good shot with him. I think that they were trying to get him to do some things as far as, change visits, those types of things. And I just feel like they just felt like he wasn't, like they had a really good shot to land him. I think that had as much to do with it as other things as well. Anything you want to add, James?
No, not really. Just like, I think it's a lot of times too, when there's, just briefly, I'd say a lot of times when someone gets dropped, it's usually like a mutual thing. Like it's not always, oh, Notre Dame is moving on, they got someone in the bag. If there's someone in the bag, you hear from us and we hint at it and we whatever without giving anything away. We'd say, oh yeah, no one needs to worry about what Notre Dame is going on. And when we're not saying that, then it's like, yeah, it wasn't a marriage that was probably going to work out anyways.
Yeah. This is an interesting question. And again, I understand the question. The question is, what value do Olympic sports bring to schools, and why is it generally accepted that football, basketball must pay for the Olympic sports? At what point do football players start asking, why are we taking less money to pay for a team that no one comes to see? Should most Olympic sports be regional club sports? I mean, I think a lot of people feel that way, or I shouldn't say that. I think some people feel that way, but you probably aren't playing those sports. If you were one of the people that are in those sports, and look, that's part of the college experience. It just is, and there are a lot of kids who get scholarships to Notre Dame. Should we take that scholarship money away, that are just regular students, and give those to the football players? So I think that it's about building a community, right? And it's about building, I guess, memories and fondness, and ultimately what you would like is if you're say you're a high performing tennis player at Notre Dame, and that person becomes a big tennis player, and that's said every week on on TV, that's a good thing. And then of course you want those people to come back and help support the university. And so I understand, but it cannot get to the point where this is all about football. Even somebody like me that makes my living off of mainly football, I would be very disappointed in Notre Dame or any school if they just started cutting a bunch of sports just to fund football. I mean, I just think that's wrong. I just do. Your thoughts, James?
Well, I think one of the things, knowing, my wife works in Olympic sports, right? She is for volleyball for Canada, and
you couldn't do this job without her. That's the fact.
For sure.
You could not do this job without her.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But one of the things too that you kind of learn from, or that I've learned from her experience from it in all these other countries, not just Canada and Europe, all these places, right? So much of their Olympic sports, they don't have a university. Like, people don't go and play like in Germany. You don't go and play volleyball and then those volleyball players become like the Olympic things. It's like, no, they have like national team programs that have their own like separate funding that are like, I'll get a lot of government help and also have different sponsorship that's there. And that stuff's not in place in the United States in the same way. And they've used this system for many, many years to fund their Olympic teams come from college sports. That's where most of those people, obviously track is huge.
Sure.
Like all these different sports are, primarily come from the development as like kind of the college being kind of a minor league for that, right? Similar to how college is a minor league for the NFL, right? But that obviously is an Olympic sport. But that has been in place for so many years. It is just one of those things that if you're getting rid of that, you're basically just saying, well, okay, United States, you might as well suck it in the Olympics going forward, because the government's not going to spend the money to fund these programs. And there's probably not going to be sponsors to pay enough to have all these kind of coaches. And you're not going to see these same people develop because people will have to quit, because it's like, you got to really like invest and do all these things into these sports where you're not making much money and you're doing this and you're really fighting it just to survive anyways. So it's one of these things that I can understand why especially football people want football to, they are bringing in the money, and there is a certain part of that should be separate. And I think obviously the players deserve money. They deserve money for all the stuff that's coming in. But you can't, if you just said all of it is going away, it's one of the reasons why they're fighting to actually keep these things alive, is because by doing it, you're just destroying like the whole industry of Olympic sports for America. And I don't think even people who are hardcore football, do people really want that? I don't think people want that.
It's interesting because, most people know my wife is English. And when she came over here, she was completely and totally dumbfounded by high school sports and how crazy the stuff was even outside of high school sports. When you're talking, Little League baseball and stuff like that. It's that way for soccer in England, but they discover these kids at like 9 and they have these club leagues just like they do here in soccer in a lot of ways, but they don't get the kind of training and that type of thing. And she was just blown away by, and she's like, why are, fans so crazy about all these sports? And it's like, well, if you went to high school, right, like I used to go to the girls' volleyball game, every one of them. I went to a girls' basketball game, every one of them, because it was a social thing, right? You were out there with your friends, and these are things that they're very important to the fabric of I think the United States, and they build the fandom, the craziness that people go out there to support. And so she was really kind of surprised. They don't have any of that stuff. There's no competition at all in any of their high schools. There's nothing like that at all. The only competition you're going to have is if you play in some kind of club thing in soccer. There is some stuff in cricket, but for the most part, there's just none of that. And she was really kind of surprised by that. And I never even thought of it. I just assumed that that's where it was in Germany and Russia and all these other places. I had no idea it wasn't like that, but that's just the way it is. All right, get on to some more questions here. I do think I understand the guy's reasoning for it. I certainly understand why he has
totally understand the question. Yes.
Yeah. Sure. Do we foresee anyone other than Malik Howard not making their planned ND official visit? At this point, I don't see it, but again, you got another big weekend coming up. The kids that are not visiting Notre Dame and going elsewhere, they can pull the trigger, and we'll see what happens.
Well, like Brandon
Mike,
Lacey, for example. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah,
Mike,
yeah.
He committed to LSU. So,
Sure.
I mean, he was a guy who was like kind of seen as, I think, more of as a
Extra.
fringe backup guy for Notre Dame anyways. But yeah, that's an example of a guy who's off the board and won't visit anymore.
Yeah. Mike, now that some time has passed, can you share more insight as to Mickens not getting the DC position? I remember you saying they needed an experienced play callers. They're set to make a legit run, and that makes sense. But are you surprised? No, I'm not. And to be honest with you, I think Marcus Freeman sat these guys down and said, look, the stakes are too high here, right? You guys need to go get experience somewhere else. And as much as I like you and I think you could be good, the stakes are too high here. They're just too high. And, I think Marcus wants to make sure that he continues to bring in guys that are experienced in that type of thing. In Mickens' case, I did hear some things. I'm not going to get into them, but I just think that he needs some work in. I don't know how to get into it, but he needs some work in other areas that aren't necessarily coaching defensive backs, right? So you just don't want to take a chance. And I think that he was very, very honest with Mickens. I think he was the same with Al Washington and probably the same thing with Max Bulla, saying, look, I know you guys want to be coordinators. I know you have things, I would love to bring you back type of thing, but you got to go get some experience somewhere else. And I think that's a smart thing unless you find somebody that you're just like, and it's kind of like, the first time I met Urban Meyer, right? The first time I met Urban Meyer, talked to him, you could immediately tell. You could just immediately tell he was going to be something special. So I remember when Bowling Green hired him, and the Irish fans are like, they're crazy. What are they doing? I'm like, you don't know what I know, right? Just be around the guy. You'll understand what it's like. And it's kind of like when you're around Mike Elko for the first time, right? You're around him and you realize, oh, this guy's got something that could make him a head coach, something that could really, he's going to rise. And if you're around him, you'll know immediately. So, and it's kind of surprising. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. The 100% correct there. Absolutely 100% correct. So, so I think that was the situation more than anything. And I think Marcus Freeman, credit him to probably having those conversations. Again, I wasn't there. I don't know this. This is just kind of what I've heard. So I could be wrong, but that's just kind of what I've heard. So I don't want to say that I know that for a fact because I don't, but I do think that was communicated. Again, we got another question here about Coach BJ. We all know that he stepped into a difficult situation. But what's your opinion of him as a coach, coaching and recruiting ability? Do you think he's a long-term ND coach? I mean, I don't know if you really know that until you work with him a little bit. But he came with a very good reputation. I think people spoke very, very highly of him. And, some guys just, I think you look at Mike Brown as an example of this, where, he came in and he didn't light the world on fire as a, recruiter right away. But what you are seeing is players are starting to develop under him. And when you start seeing players come in and they develop and it's not just one or two, then that gives a lot of players coming in confidence that he can do the same thing for them. So I think if you're not like the star guy, if you're not Brian Hartline coming in, you're not going to immediately grab every single guy. That's just not going to happen because you don't have that longevity of producing at that to where
it took time before he was getting 5 stars all the time. Yeah,
absolutely. So you just have to get that. I mean, Mike Mickens wasn't getting elite recruits right away.
That's exactly what
he had to develop Benmo. He had to develop Benmo and Leonard Moore. And then everybody was like, oh, wow, he did this now with 3 players. Well, hell yes, I want to go work with him. So I think that's what it's going to take. Anything you want to add, Jamie?
Yeah, just that Mickens is the perfect example because I remember him getting so much heat for like the first class of corners that he signed. And he was in just like a same kind of
situation.
really impossible situation where
Totally.
he had to come in really late and do that. And it was like, and also too, he is not the most dynamic personality who's just going to like win people over.
Yeah.
He's a good person. You meet in person, you talk ball with him, and yes, he is going to demonstrate things. But then over time too, you know, the players are the guys who are going to vouch for him and all of that stuff too. And then there was so much criticism of Mike Mickens, and also like how his corners did the first year, which totally was not fair because it was not the guys that he recruited, and it was guys who were there before, and he just get there. But all of a sudden he's getting his guys, and then all of a sudden, man, this guy's like one of the best assistant coaches that Notre Dame's ever had. So
exactly,
I think all you need to know about Brian Jean-Marie is that most guys get jobs because of relationships. Like that is a very big thing. And if you get a job based on reputation, it means you're a pretty good ball coach. So I don't know how long he's going to be. Like, we don't know all that kind of stuff. But if you get a job based on reputation, that means a lot of people said like, hey, this guy's a good ball coach.
I mean, Marcus could have hired anybody. You know what I mean? So it's not, you know, there would have been a million people that would have wanted that job. And at very big time, you know, I mean, chance to coach KVA and Madden, you know what I mean? And you got Bowen come back. I mean, this is the best linebacker room, one of them in the country. You know, Notre Dame has a chance to win a national championship. He could have gotten anyone. So you got to just trust that he knows what he's doing here. And he's been pretty much on every single guy he's hired. So we ought to give him the benefit of the doubt. All right, folks. That's going to be it for the show. I'm going to be on vacation starting now. I am officially off after this. I got to publish this, and I'm off. I'm going to I'm going to go see some family. I'm going to go. I got some recording to do. I got to get this record done, and I'm going to watch a whole lot of college baseball because the College World Series is here. So I get really excited about that. I'm not sure what's going to happen on Monday. I think if there's a lot of news, we'll have Power Hour. If there isn't a lot of news, we won't have Power Hour. Be looking for the update on Irish Sports Daily. We'll let you know whether we'll have Power Hour or not on Monday. And I think it just depends on what the news is from the weekend. If there's a lot to talk about, we'll definitely have it. If there isn't, we'll just take the week off. So that's going to be the situation. I'll keep everybody updated. Have fun this week. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to have some fun. I can't wait. Going to take my son, and we're going to go down and see my brother and see my family, and it's going to be a good time. So I will talk to you guys here, if not Monday, the following Monday for sure. Thanks for listening and watching Power Hour. We'll talk to you soon, and hopefully it's a good weekend, and Notre Dame starts landing some of these guys. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll talk to you soon.